charged with capital murder.
You see it now, Kate?
He pleaded not guilty.
Jason Massey was a
that same shit you just on. Go on.
To stand and testify that he might sway some of the jurors.
Guilt or innocence would be determined by the forensic evidence.
No one of those sciences was able to show beyond reasonable doubt that Massey committed the crime, but put all together, it meant that either Massey had committed the crime.
Damn, man. I ain't think that motherfucker gonna have no time to get it off. He got that bitch on.
Piece of evidence.
Before the trial ended, prosecutors learned even more about Jason Massey. Information that would seal his fate. In 1994, Jason Massey
but the
went
motherfucker
on
fucked
trial
us up in
in
that
Texas
goddamn
for the
third
murders
quarter,
of
man.
14-year-old
They
Brian
just started
King
hitting every
and
fucking thing.
13-year-old
Somebody pissed them
Christina
niggas wrong,
Benjamin.
man. Them motherfuckers mad.
Prosecutors believe that both Brian and Christina got into Jason Massey's car around midnight on July 27th for a ride in the country.
That motherfucker AI knew nothing. They just keep shooting the motherfucker AI face.
Massey's plans included much more than just a ride. Massey stopped his car on the Cutoff Road Bridge and shot Brian King twice in the head at point-blank range with a .22 caliber pistol. He then pushed him out of the car off the side of the bridge.
Gotta take charge on it.
Christina got out of the car and ran. Jason followed, shot her in the back, but the wound wasn't fatal. Later, he shot her in the head, then stabbed her. Prosecutors believe
But you know I got a monster here,
mutilation
bro.
occurred after death. Christina's head and hands
I ain't put his
never
free
been
throws up yet.
recovered. The motive was difficult for prosecutors to identify.
There was no traditional motive in this case, and instead, Massey was most likely what's referred to as a lust murderer. That is, a person that receives a certain degree of sexual gratification from the killing and mutilation of human beings.
Before the trial was over, a hunter walking in the woods made a gruesome discovery. He found a red cooler. Inside, with the decapitated heads of 31 animals, and also the journals of Jason Massey revealing his hideous deeds and horrific thoughts.
But I wish we had that
These
motherfucking,
Slayer books of death, as Massey
I wish we had the
called
squad
them,
out here, bro. We'll demolish these
frightening and
niggas, bro. If
incriminating
we had the squad out
insight
here.
into the mind of the killer. A mind obsessed with murder, sex, and
Oh, why you go for the
mutilation
law,
of young
big dog?
girls. The jury found Jason Eric
I was about to
Massey
throw that.
guilty of the two murders.
Yes, I would've.
2 young lives were avenged.
Mr. Massey, any comment on your guilty conviction?
No, ma'am, I'm just glad it's over.
For the penalty phase, prosecutors had just 24 hours to assemble the information contained in Jason Massey's journals to convince the court
Damn, boy.
that the death penalty was
Damn.
appropriate.
He started out with killing 8 cows, 30 dogs, and 39 cats. They cut off their heads and kept them as trophies.
Here's one where he's talking about a little girl, and he says that he loves her and he's decided to kill her. He just doesn't know when.
Prosecutors told the jury that Jason Massey's journal contained evidence that he had planned to kill again and again. Massey's writings revealed that his greatest aspiration in life was to become the most famous serial killer in America.
We wanted the jury to know just the kind of person that we were dealing with. And that person was one that was obviously going to be a predator of incredible proportions.
The jury deliberated just 15 minutes and decided
I held that one
upon
entirely too long. I
the
fucked that
death
up. I
penalty.
felt it.
Well, the judge said, I sentence you to death by lethal injection, and the only injustice in this court today will be that your death will be so much more humane than that of your victims. The judge said that. And everybody stood up and cheered for the judge.
Jason Massey was executed on April 3rd, 2001. Christina's grandparents witnessed his last moments alive.
This was Jason Eric Massey's final statement just prior to his execution. He said, "Yes, first I would like to speak to the victim's family. First of all, I would like to say that I do not know that any of y'all, and that's unfortunate because I'd like to apologize to each and every one of you individually. I can't imagine what I've taken from y'all, but I do want to apologize.
I apologize to you for what I did. I want you to know that it was only I who committed the murders. No one else was involved. Christina felt no pain. The things done to her occurred after her death. I swear, the things done to
step
her
in, some
after
big
her
dog.
death, I swear. Her head
Oh,
and
yo,
hands
man,
I
you
threw
can
into
shoot.
the Trinity River. I didn't rape or torture her either. I admit my guilt, and I ask your forgiveness. I pray you will forgive me. If not now, then in the future. May God be
What?
with you.
I can't even hear that shit.
Through this, his servant.
What is that?
I don't know how to describe it other than we watched him die. We had no emotions other than we were watching this person die. He kept mouthing, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." We didn't believe it. No, there's no way that you could forgive this man for what he did.
It was quick. It was painless. He was lucky. You know. That's the way I look at it. My brother and my stepsister weren't so lucky. I mean, you know, they died horrible deaths.
I'm not the one that was going to have to judge him. And I can't judge him, but I can never forgive him.
Detectives are very good and efficient. They did their jobs well.
They moving that bit, bro. They passing the shit out of that bit, man. They hitting that open man, even if they got an open shot.
An elderly woman was found dead in her hotel room. Was it a natural death, or was it murder? An alert doctor noticed a horrible infection on the finger of a hotel worker who had come to the emergency room for treatment of his injury. The virulence of that infection was a clue to the mystery.
Hell no, not really.
Cincinnati, the third largest city in Ohio. It was named after the Roman statesman Lucius Cincinnatus, whom legend held to be the model of virtue. But in September of 1994, Rhoda Nathan, a 67-year-old grandmother visiting Cincinnati, saw a different side of the city.
She was such an up person that you could not avoid having a good time with her.
But Big Dog, you see how much faster this jump is than the jump on my big man, right?
She checked into this hotel.
And that's why that's what I was saying earlier. It's hard for me to get that timing on that goddamn big man because I've been shooting with this nigga. I ain't played that big man in about a week and some change. But this yeah, that little meter up in the top of your shit, they go up, you get 3 takeover bars that you gotta get up.
Joe said he pulled the door shut, making sure it was.
But listen, what them niggas was doing, what they was doing basically, they got the motherfucking badge on what is it? A hot shot. Hot shot gives an additional boost towards takeover progress after making jump shots. So every time that motherfucker made a jump shot, his shit was going up, boosting up fast as hell every shot. And then the motherfucker that was dunking the ball, got heat seek on,
Was barely
which
recognizable.
shots taken from the painted area, including dunks and layups, receive a greater boost towards the takeover meter. So basically, every time them goddamn some bitches were throwing the ball up the court and they shooting it or dunking it, they getting extra shit towards their
A
playmaking.
cardiologist and a registered nurse answered the couple's cries for help and immediately performed CPR,
No.
believing Rhoda had suffered a heart attack and fallen. Rhoda was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. She was pronounced dead on arrival. Later that day, Elaine discovered $500 in cash missing from the purse she had left in the room while at breakfast. It was then Elaine also realized that Rhoda's necklace was missing from her neck.
I remember looking at her and saying, oh my God.
I'm telling you, that damn jump I got, that motherfucker is wet. I made that bit myself.
And I just knew. I didn't think in my mind, oh, there's her necklace, but I know it wasn't there.
Police closed room 237 as a crime scene.
So what y'all doing now?
Heinous crimes that I have ever seen in my 25+ years in law enforcement.
Bruises on Rhoda's face.
You ain't get no badge that
chest
game, big dog?
indicated she had been beaten with at least 2 different objects in addition to someone's fists.
It's all them damn shots I was hitting. You better got something.
She was just beaten to death. That's the simplest way to put it.
The autopsy confirmed what police already suspected.
But you see what I was trying to tell you now, big dog. You see how I was letting that motherfucker go, right? And that's what I was trying to tell you when you was making your play. When TJ and them kept telling me, oh, now you got to get this. I got 9 shooting badges with this nigga. That's it. Uh-huh. That's what I'm saying. I get 30. I get five finishing, 13 shooting. Yeah, 5 finishing, 13 shooting, 21 playmaking, and like 8 defensive. I said I got 9 shooting badges with him. Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you earlier when y'all were like, "Oh, you can't bring your man out there." I said, "My dude already got my dude got badges."
She was going for a good time.
Yeah.
She was in the wrong place at the wrong
Big dog, with this player already, I got 3 out of 5 finishing, 9 out of 13 shooting, 9 out of 21 playmaking, and 5 out of 8 defensive. You know what I mean? That's probably me because I was in the main menu.
Faced the hotel lobby atrium, but no one was seen entering the room.
I'm sweating bullets. You see this shit? I feel around my neck. Yeah? You feel this? Feel it. You feel it? Y'all gonna hit X or what?
McDonough cut into Jones's finger. Infected tissue spurted 10 inches across the operating room table. The cut was deep, penetrating the capsule or sterile lining of Jones's finger joint. Jones underwent 2 different operations, antibiotic therapy, and a 5-day hospital stay. Doctors believe that Jones could have died had he not sought. Lab tests revealed that the cause of the infection was a virulent bacteria called Eikenella corrodens. Eikenella is found typically in the human mouth under dental plaque around the gum line.
To get the Eikenella to propagate, you have to break the dental plaque. There has to be a significant injury, and that happens when you break a tooth usually, or if a hard object comes in contact with it, such as a fist or a hand bone. So just putting his hand in his mouth would not have given him Eikenella.
Coincidentally, 2 of Rhoda Nathan's teeth had been knocked out during the attack. One tooth was found on the floor next to her body, the other in her stomach. Also suspicious, Elwood Jones told doctors that he cut his hand on the trash dumpster, but later he told co-workers he cut it on some metal stairs.
So it's obvious that he was concerned about how he had done this injury to his hand, even though
how I get put at the default? Why we got 2 AI? Oh Lord. Did we just have 5 motherfuckers in?
It's one of the most brutal murder cases.
Man, them
I've
niggas
ever
must
heard
have
of.
quit, bro.
Just the sheer viciousness of the beating and the sheer senselessness of it just amazed me.
The first lead in Rhoda Nathan's murder came when a handyman,
Nah, because they abused the AIs, bro. They
who
just
worked
shoot in
the
their
same
face.
hotel, suffered a serious hand injury on the
Good thing
same
the AI
day
players
of the
are not just
murder.
AI.
At first, police weren't overly suspicious until they learned that Jones had given co-workers one explanation of the accident, but told hospital employees another. This prompted investigators to interview Jones' surgeon, Dr. McDonough.
Well,
Come on, 2K.
To give them some information about Mr. Jones, and I told them I was sorry that Mr. Jones and I had a doctor-patient relationship, and there was an ethical problem with me even talking to them about him in any way.
The Ohio Supreme Court had already ruled that the patient-physician privilege of confidentiality is negated when police have reasonable cause to believe that an injury resulted from violence related to a crime.
Several days
That
later,
motherfucker AI shooting
they
them
came
one.
back with
I like it. They gonna have to
and
respect that nigga.
information that as a physician under the laws of the state of Ohio, I was required to give testimony about
A fast ass
case of this
motherfucker, I can
nature.
tell you that.
Dr. McDonough said at first he took Jones's word that he had cut his hand on a dumpster.
That's what I'm saying.
But
They're
after
not sick to
looking
the
at the
wrong.
wound more closely, Dr.
We could
McDonough knew
have beat these niggas. They would have stayed in there.
he recognized the wound as a human bite injury, which hand specialists call a fight bite. It happens when a clenched
I knew the
fist
dude was
comes
waiting
in
for him.
contact with teeth.
Well, our definition of a fight bite is an
Big dog,
injury
I
to
couldn't
the
do it
hand,
past ball
usually
till I came out the
on
animation.
knuckles, when someone strikes someone in the mouth during an argument. What happens is the skin is penetrated by the edge of the tooth, or the tooth may actually break off, and that sharp edge will then inoculate bacteria underneath the skin into the soft tissues of the hand. I've been doing hand surgery for about 25 years now, and I've only seen it 3 times. And every time I saw it, it was involved in a human bite injury involved in a fight.
The location of the cut on Jones's knuckle pointed to this conclusion, as did the lab tests, which found the human mouth bacteria Eikenella corrodens.
Hitting somebody in the mouth and cutting your hand is pretty akin to cutting your hand on the bottom of a sewer.
Dr. McDonough found Jones' injury to be so unusual, he took these photographs to show his medical students. Those photographs
I can't get
became
now rebound on
a
this thing.
critical piece of evidence.
It was truly a case of serendipity because at that point in time we did not know the circumstances of Mr. Jones's injury, and what we thought was going to be a nice demonstration for a lecture turned out to be quite a bit more than that.
I hate that little
Further
animation shit,
investigation
bro.
into Jones's whereabouts on the day of Rhoda's murder revealed He had signed out a master passkey that morning and never returned it. Elwood Jones also had a prior criminal history, 3 convictions for burglary and theft. With a search warrant, investigators searched both Jones's home and that of his girlfriend and co-worker, Earlene Metcalf. Investigators examined Elwood Jones's clothes and shoes. The shoes did not match the bloody footprint found at the crime scene. And tests on his clothes found no trace of Rhoda Nathan's blood.
Cannon.
In Jones's automobile was a toolkit and a master passkey from the hotel, 2 sets of door chains, along with a gold and diamond pendant similar to the one Rhoda Nathan was seen wearing before her death. Investigators suspected that the marks on Rhoda's face may have been made by a door chain like the one found in Jones's trunk. And the mark on her chest might have been caused by a walkie-talkie radio, similar to the one Jones used at the hotel. But the autopsy photographs were not taken exactly parallel to the victim's body, creating a slight angular distortion.
Wow.
An accurate photographic comparison of the wounds to these items would be impossible.
It wasn't quick, it wasn't painless.
And they helping them. See, look, every time I come through.
Back and she didn't die right away.
The brutal murder of Rhoda
You know what I'm saying? They helping them.
terrible shock to her son and to all who knew
Make that
and loved
motherfucker find out.
She was vibrant. She was up. She was an optimist. She had a great sense of humor. She was most proud about her kids, which is, I guess, what most of us try to be proud of. She had 2 lovely sons, and they've done very nicely. Nice family, nice grandchildren, nice people.
Before going on trial, investigators wanted to know if any of the items in Jones's toolbox had been used.
They did away with it, though. Took it out of school.
But investigators had a problem. Distortions in the autopsy photos made it difficult to analyze the patterns of Rhoda's injuries. But police learned that the FBI had recently
Boy, fuck that nigga up.
technology to correct prospective distortion.
Why you ain't shoot it? Shut up, because you was wide open. You could have shot it. You ain't choose not to. You chose not to. You could have shot it.
First positioned to mirror
You left.
the camera angle at the time the original photo was taken. The table is then moved to transform the plane on the photograph to a flat surface plane as viewed from directly overhead.
So this machine had the ability to actually rectify or to correct the imperfection in the way the photograph was taken.
Next, investigators took the rectified photos to the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. The pathologists there are experts in the study of injuries caused by weapons. The color of the autopsy photographs were altered, along with the brightness and contrast, to distinguish the injuries from marks caused by internal bleeding. It was then that marks on Rhoda's face matched the door chain in Jones's toolkit. Experts could not exclude Jones's walkie-talkie as the cause of Rhoda's chest bruise, although it did not correspond exactly.
Fucking hate
They
AIs.
did
Man.
not have DNA. They did not.
I told you they fucked this game up putting them AI with them AIs, bro.
But they did have this rather unusual technique of showing how the radio may have matched up to the bruising.
Prosecutors believe that when Elaine and Joe
Ah!
went for breakfast, Jones was
And he's
watching.
still cold. They don't give a fuck.
The room was empty. He took his toolkit and the door chain so he could say
I can see it. They got big ass ice, big ass snowflake around your eye. Play some defense.
used the master passkey he signed out earlier that morning.
That's why you're gonna get graded out and keep trying to drive.
Inside, he took the $500 in cash from the pocketbook. Then, Rhoda Nathan emerged from the bathroom, still wet from her shower. He struck Mrs. Nathan in the
You
face
can work
with
when
the
you
chain in his hand,
you can work.
and struck her on the chest with his
When you
walkie-talkie.
retire, you just
He
get a
also
certain amount of
struck
money
her
from
in
that
the
job.
mouth with his fist, removing 2 teeth and picking up the virulent bacteria which caused the infection. Before leaving, Jones took the diamond necklace from Rhoda's neck and left.
She may have even been alive and conscious when the one thing that meant the most of her that she never took off was snatched off her neck. That's the kind of guy Elwood Jones is. You know, to him it was a little trinket. To her it was the main connection to her family, to her husband.
No, yeah, he ain't got to work no more ever again.
The necklace found in Jones's toolbox was positively identified as belonging to Rhoda Nathan.
Unbeknownst to Elwood Jones, this was a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. In fact, the victim in this case, her husband, had it specially made for her from his own mother's wedding ring. There was 5 small diamonds that were made in a very unique way.
If he died, his wife would get it till she died.
Even if she was taking a shower, even if she was swimming, even if she was sleeping, this pendant never, ever left her neck.
Dr. McDonough testified that Jones's hand injury and the Eikenella corrodens bacteria were the result of Jones' fist coming into contact with human teeth and not on a metal dumpster, as Jones claimed.
There was a lot of argument about how that bite could have, or how that injury could have been infected. But the doctor was very compelling in court when he said there's no other way it could have been infected other than from a human mouth. And that proved very compelling to the jury, I'm sure. But of all the hospitals in the city and of all the doctors, the one guy that Elwood Jones ended up just by circumstance being assigned to that night was Dr. McDonough. And that's, again, I can't say I feel sorry for Elwood, but I'm convinced had he gone to any other doctor, this case wouldn't have been solved.
The enhanced photographs of Rhoda's injuries suggested Elwood Jones' walkie-talkie and the door chain from his toolbox were the most likely items used in the attack.
I'm still not guilty.
Elwood Jones said he was framed by police, whom he claimed had planted Rhoda's necklace in his toolbox.
His contention was that he did nothing wrong, and he was just doing his job that day, and they picked him out simply because he had a record.
The jury deliberated just 10 hours.
I ain't mean to shoot her, to be honest. I was trying to pump fake, but then I just went through with it like, fuck it.
Aggravated robbery.
But this motherfucker got a cannon though, big dog. They leave him open, they done fucked up. This nigga got a cannon.
To say that or not, but you know, I've tried serial killers that don't bother me as much as Elwood Jones. He was just an arrogant, he was nasty to his attorney. He's just a nasty individual.
Based upon that review, the court finds itself in complete, absolute agreement with the recommendation of the jury.
Elwood Jones
It's
was
like
sentenced to
bullshit.
death. Outside the courtroom, Elwood Jones's sister reacted angrily to
They
the
let you make
sentence.
anything you store up at the end of the motherfucking quarter.
The Blue Ash Police Department framed my brother. The prosecutor, the judge, and everybody needs to be looked at in this case.
This case was interesting for a lot of reasons, and not just because
I'm trying to catch up with the AI. AI got 8 shots. What the hell going on there?
More shocking, maybe, but the most interesting things about this case were some of the scientific evidence that came into play, some of the forensic evidence that they found. It was not the kind of evidence you see in a lot of cases.
I'd like to tell him to start making peace with his maker, because I think in the very near future he's going to meet his maker and he's going to pay for the vicious murder that he committed.
I'd like to pull the switch. What would I say to him? I'd say I hope he dies slowly and painfully.
How I threw the ball?
This is the story of 2 brothers who were at one time the undisputed kings of pornography in America. Their empire crumbled in 1991 when one of the brothers was murdered. Some say...
Shit. Excuse me, shit.
The Mitchell brothers had their share of enemies, but it took crime scene reconstruction to point to the killer.
Hell no. Police see your ass swerving, but they'll drive your ass home. That Purple Heart, they got that Purple Heart.
San Francisco, California, the city by the bay. Cable cars, the Golden Gate Bridge, and Alcatraz Prison, all sights of the landscape. But there's another side to this city. One born during the gold rush days when it was a busy seaport. Sexual commerce, a tradition that has lived on today because of the city's well-known tolerance for sexual expression. It was here where two brothers, Artie and Jim Mitchell, broke into the adult sex.
If you pull one day in that motherfucker, you're a veteran.
10-minute X-rated films customers watch with a handful of quarters. Eventually, the brothers expanded into the theater business. At their peak, the brothers owned 11 adult movie theaters.
My dad'd do that. Go to all them. My dad'd go to all them motherfuckers.
Was the O'Farrell Theater in San Francisco. Here, the brothers went beyond movies and offered live sex shows and a new cabaret act. The performances went far beyond anything else that was offered in the city and was another financial success. Author David Macomber, in his book, X-Rated, says that if Jim Mitchell...
What do you mean how? The nigga's standing right in your face.
Artie was its genitals. Many future stars got their start at the O'Farrell Theater, including Nina Hartley and Marilyn Chambers. Chambers went on to star in the Mitchell brothers' first X-rated feature film, Behind the Green Door. It was an instant hit, grossing over $35 million.
For those people who haven't seen
I gotta hurry up and get that motherfucking
It is a story about a woman who is abducted, taken against her will, and at one point she gets into it because she's loved as she's never been loved before by 6 women, black men, 6 guys on a trapeze. It's just really bizarre thing.
Oh, Big Dog, I thought you had the ball. I thought I was the dude running in the fucking corner, bro.
Mary Prankster and
Hey, that's why I walked up there and stood there. You can't score because you can't put the ball in the basket. That's why you can't score.
Way more flamboyant than Jim. Jim was kind of the introvert, and Art was the extrovert.
You gotta shoot. You gotta stop shooting a contested ass shot. You see me? Well, I was shooting open shot. That's it. Only thing I shoot is open shot.
Artie also had problems in his personal life. By the time he was in his 40s, he had been through 2 divorces, 6 kids, numerous child support and custody battles, and developed an almost unquenchable appetite for drugs, alcohol, and sadomasochistic sex. On February 21st, 1991, Artie faced another problem. Just after 10 p.m., as Artie and his girlfriend Julie were going to bed, an intruder broke through the front door of his home and opened fire. Julie ran to the closet and called police. By the time paramedics arrived, 45-year-old Artie Mitchell was dead on the bathroom floor with a fatal bullet wound to his head. When police arrived at the home of pornographer Artie Mitchell, they saw a middle-aged man walking away from the murder scene with a limp, carrying an umbrella.
What was making him walk stiffly was a rifle butt sticking out of his pant leg. I drew my service revolver, and I also ordered him to stop.
Instead, he started walking faster. Then he stopped and attempted to pull out his rifle.
Arms out the side, arms up, do it now!
The man surrendered and told police he was also carrying a handgun. It was Jim Mitchell.
I thought that was fucking you, big dog. I passed the ball to that son, bitch. I thought that was you.
In the back of a patrol car, he made an interesting statement to police.
He said something to the effect that, I know I'm in trouble. I want a lawyer.
I was shocked. I was totally shocked. I mean, it was just so out of context for what you consider the Mitchell brothers to be, you know, what their future was going to be like. That certainly did not include it.
In the days leading up to the shooting, Jim said that Artie's behavior had spiraled completely out of control. Artie had threatened the lives of his ex-wife, as well as Jim's girlfriend, and also made a threatening phone call to their mother. Artie's ex-wife, Karen, confirmed that Artie had resisted any plan to get help.
Artie was acting very violent. He didn't want to check into the hospital. And he had told us that
Man, I was a 4-star goddamn general.
Jim said he went to Artie's home to force him into a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program.
Whole goddamn team go. They're not supposed to go to Big Dog. I should have icon that one.
Jim said he took a gun for his own defense. He said that when Artie came out of the bedroom, he was holding what looked like a gun. He fired 7 shots. 3 hit Artie. 4 missed their mark. Ballistic tests revealed that all of the shots fired were from Jim's rifle.
It's not a question of whether or not the person did it. It's a question of his level of culpability. What was his mental state? What was in his mind?
Artie had a blood alcohol level of 0.25, almost 3 times the legal limit.
If Art was not killed this way, Art would have died in his car and taken a lot of other people with him, or overdosed on something. It was inevitable that Art was not going to be around in this world for very long, I thought.
Defense attorneys said that what happened between the 2 brothers wasn't a murder at all.
This is not a murder case, never has been a murder case. It's a tragic accident, an accident of biblical proportions.
Homicide investigators weren't persuaded by Jim's version of the shooting. The bullet holes at the crime scene were grouped closely together, a possible indication that Jim had taken aim at his brother. But investigators needed to know the sequence of the shots and the timing of what took place. For that, all they had was the 911 call to police. But were any of the gunshots captured on the audio tape? To find out, investigators hired a forensic acoustician, Dr. Harry Haleen, to analyze the sound waves on the tape. Dr. Haleen heard some popping and static sounds, but further tests were needed to see if they were .22 caliber gunshots.
I would have been real surprised if it wasn't a
No, you just got to go in there to jump shot creator. You ain't creating no jump shot?
And do some other analyses to ensure that we knew what we were talking about.
Try this shot I'm using. I like it. You want me to send it to you? That motherfucker don't want to use my shot, boy. Look at that. See me wet with the motherfucker. See me wet with the motherfucker. We got the same bill.
Screams, static, and other noises can mask the sound of gunfire. But gunshots have a distinct sound wave pattern.
See me wet with the motherfucker.
Weapons make or size.
It looks kind of like
I don't even got catch and shoot on.
Laying sideways, where you have the big flat face and then it tapers off to a point. And it took him out
that is one of the things you look at, the frequencies that it runs at that time is another thing to look at. After analyzing the tape, Kevin Hauline identified 5 gunshots. But were they all from a .22 caliber rifle? To find out, forensic acousticians usually test fire and record the murder weapon at the crime scene for comparison. But Artie Mitchell's home was no longer available to police since it had been sold shortly after the murder.
I suddenly realized that my house was acoustically very similar.
So Dr. Hauline set up a makeshift firing range inside his own home. This glassed-in porch would double as the hallway in Artie's home. A bucket filled with wet newspapers caught the bullets. To recreate the recording made of the shooting, Dr. Hauline placed a telephone in a nearby room and recorded the shots through the open line. The murder weapon was fired and recorded over the telephone. The test firings were compared to the shots on the police audio tape. Since the test firings were done in a different home with different acoustics, there would be some differences, but there were many similarities.
Because you ain't got nobody to pass to with the AI. They double team you every time you get the ball. That's why I'm always open, because my man is guarding you. Every time you get the ball, that's that big white nigga, that's my man guarding you. Every time you touch that motherfucker. Because they got AI.
Sounds on the 911 tape were 5 of the 7 shots fired from the murder weapon. The first 2 shots happened before the call was made to police. Investigators' next step was to determine the time between each gunshot in order to recreate the crime exactly as it happened.
I told you, let me run the one. I'll give you the ball all you want. That's what I want, my playmaking back. Damn, he made that bit.
Accident or murder. Laser tests identified the direction of each of the 7
made
shots.
that bit.
Next, the blood spatter
goddamn shooting
and
broken
the
and
sequence
shit,
of the shots recorded on the 911 audio tape all helped to piece together the event. For example, investigators knew Artie was standing when hit in the shoulder. The bullet hole through the wall corresponded perfectly with the height of his shoulder.
This was a unique case because of the nature of the gunshots, the ricochets, and the tracing of the path of the bullets, and trying to place the victim in certain spots.
The crime scene reconstruction revealed that Jim broke into the home and immediately fired the first shot down the hall, through the right side of Artie's bedroom door. The second shot went through the same door just as it was opening. As Artie stepped into the hall, shot number 3 ricocheted off of the bedroom door frame, went into the bedroom, and landed on the dresser.
Yeah, but they all full game, PlayStation 4 game. You can't do PlayStation 5 games on it. You gonna have to move it from there to the PlayStation 5 to play it, and to utilize the fast load times and all that shit.
For the next 28 seconds, there were no shots fired.
Significance of that, if in fact there's a gap in the gunshots, would be that someone is waiting.
What? Y'all pulled this up?
Jim knelt down at this point and took aim.
It don't matter to me.
He was hit with the fatal shot. He was killed instantly. The 7th and final shot.
I want to lay down with my wife, but she think I'm gonna get her sick.
Prosecutors believe the shooting was intentional and was not an accident.
He had to aim because it was the evidence finally showed that fatal shot actually occurred when the victim poked his head out the bathroom door. He'd already been shot 2 times at that point.
Excuse me.
The The forensic analysis was invaluable
Big Dog, what y'all
in
trying to do?
reconstructing the crime. With this information, Jim Mitchell was charged with murder. The hardest part for prosecutors would be explaining the shooting to a jury in a way
I told you that shit tough. That shit tough going in that wreck without
So
fire,
the
bro. And you gotta
district
take them
attorney
in the
decided
eyes,
to
man.
try
They just
something
disrespect
never
them in the
done
eyes.
before. He would ask the judge to allow the forensic animation into evidence.
I knew we were going to have a big fight on our hands.
What, you going to my career?
Because I think in, what, a 27-second video, I think it was, if that, it basically summarized the whole case from the prosecution perspective.
What, you going to my career?
Obviously, they wouldn't want it in because I felt it was a very powerful piece of evidence. The actual video or animation was really nothing more than a moving diagram.
By today's